Matchday 5 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers in the African zone have practically wrapped up. There's still a few more matches tonight. And so it's time to talk about what we saw in terms of results and storylines. All of that and more coming up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hello and welcome back to the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi, and this podcast is always brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Last few days have been intense. Watching as many matches as possible live, and then trying to find ways to download the matches that I didn't get a chance to watch live, to try and collate an image of what I saw over the last 48 hours or 72 hours of African World Cup qualifiers. We're going to start off the top just with Group A. Ethiopia nil, Egypt 2. We thought that Egypt would pull away in this group. Um, what I didn't expect, I expect them to play like, if you remember, I was looking at the squad list and it said that there weren't going to be too many fullbacks. And so I was expecting them to play maybe like a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 or something along those lines. We didn't really get that. We got something I think that resembles a 4-2-1-3, but I wouldn't really qualify what Egypt used as like any kind of set formation because they played like a 4-2-1-3, but the left back, Mahmoud Trezeguet, was practically playing as a winger. And same with the right fullback, Mohamed Hani was pushing up a lot as well. And then the two of the the double pivot, the two midfielders, they were dropping back, and they were almost taking over and carrying the ball as defenders. But they were not really dropping back, centrally. So Hamdi Fethi was more covering the left side where Mahmoud Trezeguet was bombing forward. This was very fluid, to be honest, and it was tactically fascinating. I would recommend if you get the chance to watch how Egypt played. I thought it was very, very interesting, particularly because Hussam Hassan, the coach, we know he's a legend of Egyptian football and African football, the leading goal scorer of all time of the Egyptian national team, probably the greatest Egyptian striker of all time. Um, but we didn't expect him to be, you know, tactically innovative or advanced. We thought, maybe because he previously played for the national team, he would definitely get the result. I mean, the respect of the other players, his players. But I didn't expect him to play as fluid tactically and innovative as he did, really. Um, so yeah, first thing I would do is just give tip my hat off to him because tactically they were fascinating to watch, and what this formation allowed him to do is to get all of his best attacking players on the pitch at the same time. Because if you look at it, they had Mohamed Salah, they had Omar Marmoush, they had Mahmoud Trezeguet, they had Zizou, as with a striker on the pitch as well. So they had four attacking midfielders with Osama Faisal, the striker, on the pitch all at the same time. And a lot of these players like Trezeguet and Zizou were doing a lot of defensive work at the same time. So credit to them for being willing to do it, and then credit to Hussam Hassan for trusting them to be played in positions that maybe they're not used to playing. Mahmoud Trezeguet is traditionally a left winger, not a left back. Zizou is usually on the wing or in attacking midfield, but he was really tracking back a lot. Not, I think, more than he does with Zamalek in general. So, um, yeah, just great job at Hussam Hassan getting his best players on the pitch at the same time, and then giving them a lot of fluidity to move around as well. So Salah at times would be hugging the touchline, at other times Mohamed Salah would be dropping deep or cutting inside, and same thing with Omar Marmoush. So all of this, really what it did was put an immense amount of pressure on the Ethiopian defense, particularly with counterattacks, because when Egypt won the ball, either in their own end or in the opposing end, if they were counter-pressing immediately, all those attacking players, their instincts were to bomb forward right away. And what you saw was that both Egyptian goals came from counterattacks. The first one was an interception from Hamdi Fethi, one of the defensive midfielders that sort of covered as a left back when in possession. And immediately, Mohamed Salah is on his bike shooting forward. And Hamdi Fethi plays the ball through, and Salah has a great finish. And now he's only, I know he's in the single digits. I want to say he's 9 goals away from Hussam Hassan's record, maybe seven, between 7 and 9, something like that, of being the leading goal scorer all time of the Egyptian national team. He's going to beat his coach's record while he's playing for his coach, probably. Um, the second goal came from a counter attack, and this time it's Zizou that plays the ball to Salah, who has the instinct and the mentality to make the run. Sorry, Zizou scores the goal, but Salah makes. So Zizou plays. Sorry, there's a counter attack. Zizou plays the ball to Salah. Salah is, by the way, in motion when he plays the ball, and then Zizou continues his run. Again, he has that instinct of being, as a real attacking player. Any other midfielder maybe would have played the nice ball to Salah and sat back and watched, twiddle his thumbs and watch Salah try and perform a miracle. But Zizou continued to bump forward, ran into space, received the 1-2 back from Salah, and then he finished very well. Um, so yeah, basically this formation I think was fascinating because it's tough to defend against because it can be imbalanced at times. Um, but yeah, credit to Egypt. I really like what they've done. The main thing that we can keep saying about Egypt is until they play really tough opposition, we don't really know how good they are. But at the moment, since Hussam Hassan has taken over, in my opinion, they've looked very, very well. And I just keep going back to what we thought of Hussam Hassan when he took the job. He never coached, one of Egypt's two top clubs. Um, we don't know what he's like going to be like tactically. We know he's a hothead and he can, blow a fuse and start fights maybe every match on a touchline. Um, and then remember, even we thought he might have some player problems because if you remember, Mohamed Salah picked up an injury at the AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire, right? And Mohamed Salah, if you remember, went back to Liverpool, and then they said if Egypt make it to the semifinal or the final, then maybe he's going to fly back and play in that match. But he's going to do his recovery in Liverpool. And that was a decision that was a little bit controversial in Egypt. And I remember people like Hussam Hassan, his current coach, saying, why does he need to go back to Liverpool? He has everything he needs with the Egyptian national team. So you would think that there might be a little bit of tension. Maybe Salah didn't appreciate him saying that, but things seem to be going swimmingly. So again, hats off to Hassan Hassan and hats off to the Egyptian national team. But we'll make a better value judgment when they come up against tougher opposition, which won't be the case uh, in a few days' time when they play Sierra Leone at home. Even though Sierra Leone don't look now, but they just won 3-1 and they look very good as well. But they're playing at home in Egypt. I want to wait until they play a slightly bigger name before I can make a judgment. Next match I want to talk about is South Africa against Lesotho 2-0. I was listening to the post-match press conference, and Hugo Bruce, the first thing he did, his first answer was he thanked the crowd. And I think that was a good thing because it's true that as soon as I flipped on the TV, the stadium was practically full. I think in the upper bowl there were still a few empty seats, but the sound that was emanating from the stadium, I could hear it from the television. Um, and Bruce also agreed. The journalist asked him, do you think that South Africans have fallen in love with Bafana again? And he sort of agreed with that as well. And I think I agree with that as well. And it really goes back to the AFCON, but on top of that, just I really think there's a lot of momentum in South African football at the moment. But this wasn't, an easy game. Finished 2-0, but I remember at halftime thinking, oof, this is a little bit tricky because although it's true that Lesotho didn't really threaten the South African goal, they're a difficult team to break down. And we've seen other sides in this international break, like Cameroon, for example, draw 0-0 against Eswatini, so a similar sized nation and a similar stature in African football. Um, and they were at home as well, Cameroon. So South Africa were at home. So this would have been something similar. Um, and in the first half, we didn't get a crazy amount of chances, right? South Africa dominated possession, um, but there wasn't incessant attacking opportunities. I can think of one opportunity when Elias Mokwana forced a corner kick and something came of that. I can think of another one where I think it was a cross from maybe it might have been Mokwana again, but or maybe it was Tau, and the ball sort of bounced up and Lyle Foster was a little bit surprised and he tried to nod it towards goal, but it went just wide. But other than that, there were maybe two, three, maximum four chances in the first half. Um, in the second half, the goal comes from a solo effort, and it's Elias Mokwana again. And I've been banging the drum about him because I've been watching him a lot with Esperance Tunis. And even when I went on Soccer Africa last week, I sort of told the crew, I think he's underrated in South Africa. This is a top player, and here I really rate him because of what he does when he runs into space, not with the ball at his feet, when how he can create space so that the ball can be played into him into space. But here he picks up the ball on the wing and starts dribbling, and he cuts inside practically half of the pitch, dribbling, and then he lays the ball off to Mofokeng, was it? Yeah, to Mofokeng, and Mofokeng scores. And yeah, Mofokeng was, I thought, one of the players of the match as well throughout the match. Not just, I mean, he missed a few chances, but he created a few chances, finished his goal with a plum, and then just the electricity and the dribbling and the maturity that he showed again. You're talking about a player that's 20, 21 years old, is nothing short of impressive and mind blowing. So I really like the Mokwana Mofokeng pairing. Like I said, I think I wouldn't be disappointed if it was Apollos and Mokwana. But I think Mokwana should be starting on the right wing. Percy Tau started this match. I didn't think he should. I didn't think he had the legs, maybe. But he actually did a decent job of running around. In a sort of more second striker, playing in the hole as a sort of number 10. I think that suited him well, actually. And that's a position where you don't need to necessarily run as much as you do on the wing. Um, so yeah, I liked the attacking midfielders. I liked the double pivot of Jaden Adams and Tabo Mokoena. I thought that worked very well. Tabo Mokoena was more the anchor, making sure everything is balanced in midfield, whereas Jaden Adams got a chance to link up with Percy Tau, got a chance to roam around a little bit, show off his attacking quality, and he scores the second goal after a beautiful build-up play down the wing. So it's one of those where with Lesotho, I always thought if you score one, you're gonna score another, because the problem with them is that they're really just sitting back, and making sure that you don't score one. They were hoping that they could come away with a nil-nil draw like Eswatini did against Cameroon. But once you score one, they sort of have to get out of their shape, and once that happens, they're going to leave spaces behind them, and I think that's what South Africa exploited impeccably for the second goal. So yeah, overall, great match. I like the double pivot in midfield. I like the attacking midfielders. I thought Lyle Foster was a little bit average. It's the first time in a long time I've watched him play for Bafana. I thought Ikram Reyners, when he came on in the 10 15 minutes that he came on, looked a lot sharper than Lyle Foster did. So I think Reyners should probably be starting, to be honest. Um, and then defense was fine, and Ronwen Williams was fine, except for in the second half, I thought he was uncharacteristically sloppy with his distribution, with his passing with the ball at his feet. But other than that, I mean, South Africa, just another 3 points. And yeah, now it's just really a race until the end of the qualifiers, because it seems like Nigeria, we're going to talk about in a second, have found something, and that they will be chasing that World Cup qualifying spot. But the last thing I would say is that with South Africa, the sort of conventional logic was that the generation entered its prime in Cote d'Ivoire at the beginning of last year, where they finished in third place, and that there was really like a 2 to 3 year window where South Africa would continue to be in their prime, where players like Percy Tau, Tabo Mokoena, Ronwen Williams, Grant Kakana, Kuliso Modao, etc., Aubrey Mudiba, these players, they're really going to be in their prime for maybe one more AFCON, and then after that, you're going to have to, who knows if South Africa is going to be as good anymore. But when I was watching the match yesterday and I was looking at, okay, Mofokeng 20, Jaden Adams 23, Mbata came on as a sub 25, Mokwana Elias Mokwana 25, Oswin Apolis 23, Lyle Foster 24, 25. It's like that in itself is an attacking midfield plus a midfield plus a striker of players that can start for South Africa right now. And do a good job. Not to mention all the other very talented players that haven't been called up and that haven't that continue to perform in the PSL. So I think this is not a flash in the pan. This is not a 2 to 3 year window for South Africa. I think this could go much longer, as long as the talent continues to develop, and as long as the coaching. Because we have to underline the impact of Hugo Bruce. Since he's been there, he's been doing an incredible job. So as long as the coaching is on par, even if Bruce is not there. Rwanda versus Nigeria. Nigeria wins 2-0 in Kigali. The first thing I'll say is, man, uh, Amahoro Stadium is absolutely beautiful. Um, I'd never seen, I mean, I'd seen Amahoro Stadium before, but I'd never seen the renovated version of it. And man, it has nothing to envy from any, top European stadium. So that was really cool to see. I didn't think they were playing in Rwanda because I'd never seen that stadium, in that state before. Other than that, I was impressed with Eric Shell, who comes into his first match here. And I was expecting him to play with three midfielders, maybe like a double pivot of Ndidi and Onyedika, and then Iwobi in front of them. So like three true midfielders, but he actually only goes in with a double pivot, similar to Nigeria's, with Ndidi sort of anchoring, and Iwobi is the player like Jaden Adams that would get involved with the attacks. And then he goes with three pure attacking midfielders in front of them: Moses Simon, Samuel Chukwueze, and Ademola Lookman. And then you have Victor Osimhen as a striker. So first of all, just wanted to praise that ambition. Away from home, tough place to play against Rwanda, who are ahead of you in the group, and you go with that formation already. I think salute to you. The second thing, before the match, I had spoken about wanting to see technical leadership from Nigeria. What I mean by technical leadership, it's not like I want to see you bring the team together prior to the match. Everybody sits in a circle and, come on, guys, come on, rah rah. No, I want to see when it's when you're on the pitch, who's gonna, take the game by the scruff of the neck and prove that they're a technical leader on the pitch, like speak with their play, and I really specifically outlined Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman, are two reigning African footballers of the year, and immediately, in the first 10 minutes, Victor Osimhen scores off of an Ademola Lookman set piece, and immediately I thought, okay, that's what I wanted to see. Great delivery from Lookman. And by the way, throughout the match, it looked like Eric Shell had, even though he's only been with Nigeria for a limited period of time, it seemed like they worked on set pieces. We'll go look back and look at the corner kicks. Adam Lookman has one hand up or two hands up, and that signals something. And people are, running around in organized manners, and they're trying to be dangerous from set pieces. And I think that's, again, somebody that understands international football, because like Tom Saintfiet said with Mali, international football, you don't have, 10 years to develop tactical systems and so on and so forth. You have a few days, and in a few days, you have to worry about things like set pieces, being organized, so on and so forth. So that's another feather in the cap of Eric Shell. And then the second goal, man, that's only one of those goals that only Victor Osimhen can score. I think, 98 or 99% of strikers won't score that goal, um, because of his ability to close the distance. It's a 50-50 ball. He manages to nip the ball past the Rwandan defender, but not only do that and like win a foul or something. No, then he's off to the races. He's 40-yard sprint to the goal. Uh, and he pulls away with his speed, and then he has the quality to finish with a beautiful chip. And it reminded me of, the Osimhen that we saw at the AFCON, when I think it was against Cameroon. They threw a throw in backwards, and Victor Osimhen just closes the space on the defender and nips the ball away, and then keeps running towards goal. I think that time he served Ademola Lookman, who scored the goal. But man, it must be terrifying if you're a defender playing against Victor Osimhen, because I use this analogy during the AFCON. It's kind of like looking in those rear view mirrors in the car where it says at the bottom, beware, this object is closer than it appears. That's the case for Victor Osimhen. If it's another striker, you say, okay, I have 2-3 seconds to clear the ball or to make a pass. But with Victor Osimhen, that's cut in half. So credit to Victor Osimhen again. I think what he's been doing with Galatasaray even has been incredible, and he should be gaining way more respect in European football and should be playing in the Champions League with the top club in the top five leagues. I don't understand why he's not at a top club there. Um, but then, yeah, in the second half, I thought Nigeria did a good job of all around defending and limiting chances. Um, oh, by the way, even at full time, Eric Shaw, the coach, go look at what's the first thing he did. The new coach gave a big hug to Victor Osimhen. I thought that was really cool to see. You want your new coach to be on good terms with your best players. Um, so yeah, good first match for Eric Shell. It's difficult to judge too much when it's the first match, but South Africa won, so Nigeria had to win, and they have to make up these 4 points that South Africa lead by some way somehow. Next match is at home against Zimbabwe. It's going to be a tough one. I know Zimbabwe are bottom of the group, but Zimbabwe were good in AFCON qualifiers. I think it's been a little bit cruel to them, these FIFA World Cup qualifiers, particularly in this group, which is so equal. So yeah, they have to catch up some way somehow. They have to hope that SA slips up against Benin and Cote d'Ivoire, because even the next time Nigeria plays against South Africa, it's going to be in South Africa. So Nigeria they have to make up a lot of ground here, and so there's no more excuses. There's no more really anything. You have to keep winning matches nonstop from now until October. The next match that I want to talk about is Libya versus Angola. I think this was one of the most entertaining matches I've seen in a very long time, especially if you like things like um, controversy, ego, showing off. Uh, First of all, the first thing I would say is that they're playing in Benghazi, and it's great to see fans back in stadiums and the Libyan national team playing at home. From 2014 to 2022, 2021, we didn't really have fans in stadiums. We didn't really have Libya playing in Libya. And I always thought that was such a big shame because Libyans are so passionate about their football. But that said, why were there fans in this match? Because if I remember correctly, Libya were sanctioned uh, two matches. They were supposed to play behind closed doors after some of the security trouble when Benin went to go play there in the final match day of AFCON qualifiers. And what I would say as well is Angola are also complaining about security problems throughout this match. Um, and they had to wait 3 hours after the stadium closed, after the match was over, before leaving due to security problems as well. Don't want to make a generalization, but it's starting to become a pattern here, where every single time Libya plays a home match here, first time it was Nigeria, second time it was Benin, and now it's Angola. They have to do something about the security. This is not acceptable. CAF should not, they should be very firm with this. And if it continues, I think there should be some real sanctions, including not playing matches in front of fans. Which again, why I didn't I read that they were supposed to be playing two matches behind closed doors, including this one. I don't know why there were fans there. Maybe I missed another statement from CAF saying that they could play with fans. I don't know, but anyways, as for I was curious to see the starting lineup from the Libyan national team because again, Aliou Cisse is the new coach, and I was wondering if he was going to be playing, with a lot of new players, if he was going to try to convince a lot of players playing abroad that retired internationally, try and see if he could bring them back. But to be honest, the Libyan starting lineup didn't really change that much. Still, Ahmed Ikrao was a striker, Salama and Khoja sort of on the wings. Badr Hassan, the 37-year-old defensive midfielder, was back in midfield, and it's a joy to watch him play. I love watching him play. Just a sober, careful, meticulous midfielder that even at the age of 37 is playing well. The other thing I didn't really understand is why was Aliou Cisse not on the sideline? He was in the stands. And Tariq Tayyib, I believe, was the one that was, by the way, legendary Libyan former player. Good to see him sort of back involved with Libyan football because he had sort of come out as pro Gaddafi during the Libyan revolution, and as a result, he was sidelined for a lot of people. After the revolution, a lot of people lost respect for him, but the guy did so much for Libyan football, so I think it's just good to see him back. But yeah, I don't know why Aliou Cisse was not on the sideline. Maybe because it was his first match back, they thought it would be a good idea to keep him in the stands. Maybe it has something to do with badges. Maybe the contract isn't signed. I don't know, but that's something to keep an eye on as well. Um, but I really started watching this match in the second half, and the intensity was crazy from Libya and Angola, and it was a really good match, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I was getting ready to, be honest, sing the praises of Aliou Cisse and his coaching because he makes two substitutions. He brings on Muaid Lafi. He's one of those players that, by the way, is comes back and plays for Libya after not playing for the previous coaches. And he brings on a guy named Sula, I think it's Mohamed Sula, number 7, who plays as a right winger on the left-footed on the right flank, and he was probably one of the most dangerous players. His dribbling was incredible. He creates the goal with a cross, and Moed Lefi leaps up and scores a header. And Moed Lefi is like maybe 1 meter 70, maybe 1 meter 65 or something like that. And he just got up in the air and he scored a beautiful heading goal. So immediately I was thinking this is a storybook beginning for Aliou Cisse. His substitutes make the difference. That shows good coaching. The crowd is going crazy. And then the Libyans are employing the North African dark arts, the goalkeeping cramps in the 78th minute. And the goal was in the 75th minute. Goalkeeper had cramps in the 78th minute. In the 83rd minute, the ball boys are keeping the balls and not throwing them back onto the pitch. A few minutes later, the bench is, complaining about Angola's throw in and forcing them to take the throw in 10 meters back. It was just, I thought there's no way Angola's going to equalize here. And just when it seemed that all hope was lost, their captain, Freddy, 34 years old, 60 appearances for the Palancas Negras, in the final minute of the match, practically the last kick, he scores a free kick. And then first thing he does, he runs to Moued Lafi, the opposing Libyan player, and he goes like, you ever see Who was it? Was it Ruud van Nistelrooy one time when he scores a celebration? I think it was against Angola, Andorra or Moldova or something like that. And he scores a goal and he runs to the opposing player and he lifts his hands in the air like this and celebrates in their face. Freddy almost does that to Moed left. He just runs to his face like ha 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 because you could tell there was back and forth during the match. And then he turns to the crowd and to be fair, there's a little bit of an obscene gesture. He grabs his private areas, which is not the nicest thing to do. Come on, we're in Ramadan and everything, but he probably felt like he was being provoked the entire match, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was. So there will probably be a sanction there, but man, like that, what that showed me is this is why Freddy's captain. That showed an incredible amount of mental strength to do that, and um, I think it just elevated him in Angolan fans' minds, and he's going to be a legend, for a very long period of time. Not just for that, of course, for his entire career, but that was very, very impressive because of the timing, um, and because of the pressure. When you're playing in Libya, when you're playing in North Africa, sometimes those results they feel like they're inevitable, but Freddy comes and he reverses it, and yeah, huge points picked up by Angola, huge, huge, because Cameroon, remember, they drew with Eswatini. So this was very important for Angola to pick up this point, and they have Cape Verde now. If they can get another 3 points, they'll be well on their way to really challenging for that World Cup spot. Final few matches: Niger versus Morocco. Finished 1-2. Morocco won in the last minute as well. And this is a match that was much closer than most people thought it would be. Morocco, by the way, playing both of their matches in Wijda. And Regragui set up in like this 4-2-2-2. It was like so that can sometimes shift. It can be a 4-3-3 as well, but it's basically a double pivot of Amrabat and Unahi. But will then move into midfield next to Elias Ben Seguir, and then Brahim Diaz can sort of play at the top of a diamond, or he can sort of drift to the right, and Rahimi can be sort of on the left wing, but can also drift over and be a second striker. So it varies between a 4-2-2-2 and a 4-4-2 diamond, and also a 4-3-3. It's like very, very fluid as well. And although Morocco looked good early, and they could have scored, Nath Aguerd, the center half, struck the post from like 35 yards out. Beautiful dipping shot. Um, and it's one of those things where sometimes all you need is a goal, like South Africa with Lesotho, and then maybe the opposing team is going to open up more. And if they do, then maybe you get a second and a third, and then you're cruising. And then it's like, oh, Morocco are informed, they're the best side in Africa, and so on and so forth. But they didn't break the deadlock. And then Niger scores. And then even when Morocco comes back and scores and wins the match 2-1 at the last second, there's still a lot of questions and a lot of disgruntlement, right? So I think it's one of those where, yeah, it's a game of inches at times, right? And we know that. But this was always going to be a tough match because Niger are underrated, and their coach Bedou Zaki is a Moroccan legend. Of course, the goalkeeper that played in the 1986 FIFA World Cup, the former Moroccan national team coach when they made it to the final at the 2004 AFCONs, and more recently, a few years back as well. He knows all of the players. Of course, he knows the national team. He knows the stadiums. So he was always going to have his side prepared. But overall, I think there were a few, negative points here for Morocco. A lot of criticism towards Asdin Unahi, one of the stars of the 2022 FIFA World Cup run in central midfield. A lot of criticism towards Youssef and Nasiri, the striker at Fenerbahce, who's having a good year for Fenerbahce in Turkish football. But even me, like, he's a striker. In the air, he's going to be great. Hold up play is good. He's strong. But there's always that thing in the back of your mind where you know that he's so clumsy and sloppy technically. And if there's a one on one chance with the ball at his feet, you're not confident that he's going to score it. I prefer having Sufyan Rahimi as a striker, or even maybe Ayoub El Kabi, um, or maybe the youngster Hamza Igaman, honestly. And I'd prefer to have Yusuf in the city more as a player that you sort of bring in when you're lopping in crosses and you need somebody to be more of an aerial threat. Um, so yeah, questions about Unahi and Nasiri. I thought Ashraf Hakimi was less effective than usual. So I don't know if that's because of this new formation, which is not really new, but I don't know if it's because of the formation or not. Because when they were playing that 4-1-4-1 at the World Cup and even at the AFCON, uh, there was that triangle of Unahi, Ziyech, and Hakimi. That was like the Bermuda Triangle, and Hakimi would take these inside runs. He would go, Ziyech would hug the touchline, and Hakimi would make runs inside of the winger. Uh, we're not really seeing that anymore because I think a lot of the midfield, if they're in a diamond formation or if they're in a 2-2 formation, uh, a lot of it is very central. They're not getting a lot of width. And as a result, even Brahim Diaz, if he's on the right wing, he's not getting a lot of width. So Hakimi has to go wider if he wants to overlap. And I think he's more dangerous underlapping rather than overlapping. I don't know if underlapping is a word, but yeah. Uh, Overall, I thought Brahim Diaz could have looked better as well, but he's at the origin of both goals. He crosses the ball, Yusuf Nasiri flicks it, and Ismail Saibari scores the equalizer. And then in the final minute, Brahim Diaz plays a 1-2 with Nusayr Mazraoui. Beautiful flick on. Mazraoui crosses the ball, and it is it Bilal Khanous? I think it's Bilal Khanous that scores a header. Um, and Morocco win 2-1. So yeah, I mean, overall, you pick up the 3 points. That's the most important thing. You're going to play in Morocco again in a few days' time. You need to pick up another 3 points. I don't think anybody's doubting that Morocco's going to make it to the FIFA World Cup out of their group. But what I did see were some Moroccan fans say, thank God the AFCON is not in the summer. We're not ready yet. We're not ready to be at that level to win the AFCON, which I don't know if I agree with, but just to show you that there's still a lot of doubt within the Moroccan national team setup. Um, that doubt, if it creeps in, can be a hell of a thing. Final two matches: Algeria against Botswana. Algeria wins 3-1 away from home. This was the ultimate trap game. Kickoff at 2 p.m. 27 degrees Celsius. Algerians are fasting for the majority. I think all of them were fasting, and they're playing on a synthetic pitch. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't a synthetic pitch. That was Tunisia versus Liberia, but they're playing on a bad pitch as well. Very. I saw one Algerian say somebody made a pass and a carrot popped out of the ground or something like that. Like stupid joke, but I thought it was pretty funny. But the Algerians, you could tell they were pacing themselves from the get go. Botswana are a team that are difficult to break down. So Algeria just making sure they don't concede a goal initially. Everybody was tracking back. They were utilizing an offside trap that was very, very effective between Rami Ben Sabaini and Issa Mandi in particular. Great job just catching players offside time and time again, maybe no less than 5 times in the first half. And Algeria were really on the front foot for the first 30 minutes without creating much. But the last 15 minutes, there were the Botswanan front line were starting to make their mark, especially number 7, Kabelos Sekenyang. I should have looked up the translation, the pronunciation. But and then Tumisangori Bunyi, I know him. They were killing the Algerian backline, and they were threatening, and they threatened with 1 or 2 chances, which is more than Algeria should have been comfortable with. That said, right before halftime, Algeria break through, and it comes through Hisham Boudawi, the midfielder from Nice, making a run. Riyad Mahrez passing the ball into space. Hisham Boudawi lofting across in, and Emin Guiri heading the ball. Emin Guiri headed the ball straight at the goalkeeper, Poco. And Poco is like, I made fun of him last time, I think, when they were playing Egypt because he has a pot belly as a goalkeeper. But he's not very tall. He doesn't seem very fit. And here he gives up really a joker of a goal. Like that ball should have never went into the net. Um, and his distribution was okay at times, but he's not a serious goalkeeper for me. Despite the nice distribution, I've watched him play for 3 matches now, and each time he doesn't inspire confidence at all. The second half, Botswana tried pressing, and it was the same thing again. Going back to South Africa against Lesotho and Morocco and Niger, when that team is forced to come out of their shell, as Botswana were, Algeria just took advantage of them. They picked them apart. Adams Organ this time plays a beautiful quick pass to Eight Nouri, who plays the ball into Guiri, and Guiri plays a through pass into Mohamed Amin Amoura, and Amoura scores a goal. Um, and that's the thing, really, is the stars of this match were Amin Guiri, the new signing at Olympique de Marseille, who's been off to an incredible run of form, really, from the beginning of January until now, or since he made the move to Marseille until now. Goals, assists, playing as a left winger, playing as a striker, and they interchanged these two players, Guiri and Amoura. So Guiri started the match as a number 9, and then in the second half he moved out to the wing and played as a left winger. And Amoura, man, like it was an intelligent move to move him as a number 9 in the second half because the Algerian national team knew that Botswana had to sort of come out and try and attack and equalize, and his pace. There's very, very few players, I think, on the African continent, which is, I think, we're one of the faster continents in the world when you look at the result of the Olympics. Um, Very, very few players on the African continent that can keep pace with him. Defenders, like Osimhen, but I think maybe even faster than Osimhen, but not as powerful as Osimhen. And the third goal was just proof of it, you know. And the assist comes from Yusuf Belali, who was subbed on, who again I think is the best player playing on the continent of Africa, playing his club football on the continent, and he plays this beautiful through pass over the ball over the defense that Amoura doesn't even have to control. It was genius. And Amoura rounds the goalkeeper and scores the third goal. And yeah, it was a very difficult match. Like I said, it was a trap game. You could see at the 90th minute when the referee blows the whistle, everybody collapses. Like six, seven players on the Algerian national team just collapsed out of pure exhaustion, sheer exhaustion. And there was even a debate within the Algerian media space of should we speak to CAF because it's not safe to play matches at 2 p.m. Uh, in Botswana in the middle of the summer over there, you know, or it would be the same thing in Algeria, for example. Should all kickoffs, you know, take place after 5 p.m., for example? I know it's a difficult thing to institute because in a lot of countries, maybe you don't have floodlights in every stadium. Um, Me personally, I think that's, you know, like part of the advantage for the home side. Even though you could tell, even the supporters, they were coming to the match with an umbrella, you know, because of the sun. You could tell the sun was really beating down on everybody in the stadium, not just the players, but even the coaching staff and the supporters as well. So I do think it's a little bit of a health risk, and in that sense, CAF could say something, but at the same time, this is part of, you know, having home field advantage. You know, in North Africa, you're gonna get the intimidating atmosphere. You're gonna get you know, lasers and so on and so forth. And I think this is a way that many Southern African sides like Malawi, like Botswana, yeah, I remember the Gambia is doing something similar. They want to play these matches at 2 p.m., especially if they know that the opposing team is fasting. They think that that's maybe one way that they can uh, tilt the scale in their favor. But yeah, great win for Algeria against Botswana. But the most important thing now is to beat Mozambique, who also won their match. Uh, these two teams are top of the group with 12 points apiece, and now they play on Tuesday in Algeria. And whoever wins that match, and Algeria has to win, really, they can't even draw. Whoever wins that match really has a good head start for the final four matches of qualifiers. All right, we've been going really, really long now, almost 40 minutes. So just the last thoughts on one of the last match that I watched, which was Liberia versus Tunisia. Again, a lot of curiosity when there's a new coach like Aliou Cisse, like uh I'm blanking on names. But when there's a new coach, I'm really curious to see who he uses in the starting lineup. Who are the players he's going to be relying on? And I thought there were a few names that were interesting. The goalkeeper Ayman Dahmen returns to Tunisian starting lineup, and he played really, really well, as did Ghorbel, the right back, very young right back, who I believe is playing at Sfax, if I'm not mistaken. But I know he's playing in the Tunisian league. The rest of the back five were imperious as well. So Dylan Braun, Muntasar Talbi, and Ali Al Abdi in particular, the left back from OGC Nice, they were all very, very good. So Tunisia's defense was good. The midfield I thought needed some rejigging, particularly within the double pivot. It was Anis Ben Slimane and Issa Aidouni in the double pivot, which was not great, but you know they still have Elias Khiri who wasn't playing, who's probably been one of the most consistent defensive midfielders in all of German football in the Bundesliga. Now he's playing his football at Eintracht Frankfurt and is a guaranteed starter for them. So once he's back, maybe next to Issa Aidouni, I want to see that double pivot with Hannibal Mejbri, the Burnley midfielder who started this match in front of the double pivot. And I think he did a good job defending and attacking. Did a really good job there. And then the final, I think, really big workshop that Sami Trabelsi has is who's going to play on the wings. He started this match with Naim Sliti and Saif El Taif. I don't think those are the answers. I think maybe we're going to see Elias Ashori from Copenhagen on the left wing, but he's just so inconsistent at times. Is Tunisia going to call back Youssef Msakni to make, you know, I think it would be a record eighth appearance at an AFCON. That would be incredible to see. But maybe recruit some of those players from the diaspora that we spoke about last time. You know, Ismail Gharbi or Hissam Hassan. Maybe they could be the ones that could play on the wings. But that's where I think Tunisia has to. Um, yeah, I need to see better play on the wings. I think better play on the wings, a little bit out of attacking midfield. But they maybe have found a striker in Hazem Mastouri as well, who's the leading goal scorer in the Tunisian league. And he scored the goal in this match 5 minutes in. But overall, it wasn't a beautiful match for Tunisia. They didn't, again, this was a team that had scored 8 goals in 10 matches coming into this match. And now they have 9 and 11, which is still not crazy. Um, and so they need to score more goals. But for the first match under a new coach, again, in Ramadan, they're fasting, they're traveling, going to Liberia. They're playing on a synthetic pitch, although not at 2 p.m., just at 5 p.m. So these are difficult matches physically on players, you know. So I wasn't expecting them to absolutely kill Liberia, just like I wasn't expecting Algeria to kill Botswana. Yeah, overall, just important for them to get to 3 points, and I think we're going to be expecting a better performance at home on Tuesday. Yeah, so I think we're going to leave it there. We've gone over 40 minutes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five Side Podcast. Which matches did you watch? I wonder if any of you guys watched more matches than me. I think I was at 6 or 7 matches. I also watched Comoros Mali, which I didn't get a chance to speak about. Anybody get a chance to watch 6 or 7 matches? If so, hats off to you. But which matches did you watch? Who were you most impressed with? And yeah, uh, very much looking forward to the next round of matches, and we're going to be breaking those down here Tuesday or Wednesday. Maybe I'm going to go to the Algeria match against Mozambique, and if so, I'll try to vlog that. I think it would be cool for people to see, what it's like to go to a match in Ramadan in North Africa. So yeah, take care all, and I'll speak soon. Peace.